Okay, welcome back to AES 2023 New York City with Andy from Sony. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
How are you doing? Good?
Thanks for being here.
And thanks for everybody watching and coming to the Sony booth.
Yeah,
Here we go,
perfect.
Nick. Absolutely.
So we have a product that's a little bit outside of the Gotham Sound, portable sound
Correct.
wheelhouse.
Correct.
But it's cool, and I
Right.
think it speaks to a lot of our customers that also dabble in post. So why don't you tell
Very
us what's
interesting.
going on?
Yeah, we're showing a lot of products here at the Pro Audio area for microphones, wireless, and we have a brand new pair of headphones, which are called the MDR-MV1s. They're a new open back design. Obviously, we've been making MDR 7506s for so many years, sell lots of them, but they're a closed back design. They have their certainly application, certainly in location sound. But in the world moving into immersive sound, immersive audio, spatial audio, it's incumbent to have a pair of headphones that allows you to mix with localization cues that are very, very accurate. And inside of a closed back headphone, sound bounces around and you get a lot of, like standing issues and things. But an open back design is a lot more accurate. The backstory on why these headphones were developed, though, is kind of a very interesting story. It goes back to Sony Pictures just a few years ago. Sony Pictures, in the final stage of mixing for a movie, goes into a mix theater, and you can put sounds out of every speaker and listen to it. But they didn't have enough of these giant mix theaters to handle the throughput of movies that they were making at the time. And Sony Pictures reached out to our Sony Japan R&D teams and said, is there any way you could make so a mixer could mix through a pair of headphones but have it sound identical to them being in the room? And so they worked on something called 360 VME, Virtual Mixing Environment, which is, without going into all the detail, is a way by taking these special little microphones, putting them in your ear, playing specific test tones and sweep tones out of every speaker in your control room, mix theater, from stereo to Atmos to 360 13 speakers, all that stuff. It plays the sweep tones and it very accurately measures your personal HRTF, head-related transfer function, with that space and those monitors. But what you end up with is a profile that is incredibly accurate. And I'm here to tell you that when you get tested, they will put the mics in your ears and they will play sounds out of every speaker, behind, below, above you. And you go, okay. And then you put on the pair of headphones, and then they add more test tones that finally calibrates the system. And then they will play the sound out of each individual speaker again. And you go, so what? I already heard that. And then the light bulb goes off. Wait, I'm still wearing the headphones. What? And you pull the headphones off, and it's dead quiet. And you are 1,000% convinced that you are hearing sound from the speakers all around you. So, the idea is the tech is here. We're working on the business model, if you will, which studios you can go get profiled in, all those things. But we also developed the MDR-MV1s as a reference pair of headphones that would best and most accurately give you that capability in that virtual mixing environment. These have a frequency response of 5 hertz to 80K.
Wow. And
they have a very smooth transition through that frequency range, which is a big challenge, to have a diaphragm that can be stiff enough to do 80K, but pliable enough that it could go to 5 hertz and even below. And it has to be pliable enough, but proper enough so that when you crank up the audio level, it doesn't cause a lot of distortion. So they came up with a unique diaphragm design and something called curved corrugated, blah, blah, blah. But it is a very smooth transition. Now, the challenge normally with open back headphones designs is they have a lovely sound stage, but they tend to not have a lot of low frequency, kind of balance. And our engineers wanted to achieve a nicely transition frequency response. So they came up with something called a tri-duct structure, which are these three little posts on the outside of the diaphragm that are a specific width, a specific height, have a specific hole drilled in them, and they act as acoustic resistors. And those finely tune the low frequency response so it is tight and it is not floppy and mushy. And so, as well, these headphones are insanely light. They are crazy light. You will pick them up and go, gosh, these things are made of plastic, but they're not. That's actually an aluminum alloy, and all these little holes in here are specifically drilled because you can't mold it in that. So they went to that degree. The ear cup material is this high-end suede-like material that's used in luxury sports car seats.
Okay.
Because when you take headphones off and you put them back on, if you're working in an immersive environment, you want them to stay where they're supposed to be on your head, and with the click stops and all that stuff, to go back in exactly the way they came off. They are crazy lightweight, crazy comfortable. You need to be able to wear them for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and they should feel like a nice worn pair of jeans. That's a big deal. So the engineers even went so crazy as to make the connectors out of machined aluminum. They're really nice. Anyway, that's, I think, an awful lot about the MDR-MV1s. They're $399. You won't know what I'm talking about until hopefully you get a chance to mix with them, but they're great for stereo mixing, mastering, creation, music creation, not in front of an open microphone necessarily, but if you're a composer and you're working on keyboards, these are great for giving you that extra creative juice that you want. So that's the MDR-MV1s. Hope you got a chance to listen to them.
And just to be clear, this is a standard 1/8" jack. There's no magic. It's not USB. It comes with 1/4 inch.
It's no longer a coiled cord like we have in the 7506s. It gets kind of twisted and weird. It's a nice cable. Actually, right now I'm using a balanced cable off to my digital audio player, which is a 4.3 millimeter jack. It doesn't come with that cable, but it comes with an 8-foot long straight cable with the machined aluminum connectors to 1/4 inch, and then also we supply a little shorty adapter to go from the 1/4 inch down to the 1/8 inch. They're 24 ohms. You can drive them from a cell phone beautifully. They're really lovely. Hope you got a chance.
Okay, great.
There
So
you go.
be on the lookout for that
Absolutely.
for our music
MDR-MV1s.
and post people. All right, and then the last thing we're going to mention is just to highlight this. We've talked about the UWP series a lot. Is this the mono or the stereo?
That's the 2-channel version.
That's the 2-channel. So,
and we're interfacing it here to an A7R4. Many of our cameras have an intelligent shoe design, which is called an MI or multi-interface shoe. When you take this little shoe adapter and you attach it to the bottom of our receivers, it mounts right on the camera. No extra cables needed. Audio goes right down through both channels. You can even flip it, the little shoe, to say digital versus analog. And since there's onboard DSP doing all the companding here, you pick the signal off while it's in the digital domain, and it becomes part of the video file without having to go through an extra D to A and then the camera's A to D. Makes it even a cleaner
and no
signal.
cables.
And you don't even need to put batteries in the receiver because it can power off the camera's battery. So that's it.
And so the reason why I mentioned that, because we have talked about it a lot, is we are using a Sony FX30 camera to do this live stream. We do have a separate sound mixer, but they are transmitting the signal from a Sony transmitter into a Sony transmitter receiver using the MI shoe.
Very, very nice.
So it's very cool. Andy, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Nick.
joining us.
Thank
and
you.
everybody, thank you for watching. We'll be back after lunch. That's lunch, lunch, lunch.